Well, hello there, friends. Good morning. Sorry I'm a little late this morning. As many of you are already aware, and if you're not, you'll be aware now, we are in the process of moving. Not really in the process of, I guess. We still have a few weeks before we're moving, 3 weeks, I think, before we're moving. But we are looking at houses, having a really hard time right now. The market where we're moving is moving really fast, and so I was looking at new listings that were out there and texting with the realtor real quick, and just time slipped away. However, I am ready for my Bible study, so we've already been crushing through this morning a little bit so that I could get ready for this, and today's story is just, well, it's just nuts. I don't know. I mean, you tell me what you think, but I'm still drinking my Black Bear coffee, by the way. It's delicious, and I've got the fancy Reverb.com mug. Reverb.com used to be the best place for musicians to buy and sell guitar gear on the internet. Not so much anymore, but that's a story for another day. So let's process through some Bible this morning. Judges 15. We're going to see some crazy stories, and these are the stories that you read and you go, yeah, there's no way the Bible's fiction, because you just couldn't make this stuff up. All right, so let's read it. Judges 15, starting at verse 1. It says, "After some days, at the time of the wheat harvest." Now remember what happened, right? Samson left his wife in an angry fit at the end of the last chapter, right? Keep that in mind. After some days, at the time of the wheat harvest, Samson went to visit his wife with the young goat, which I guess is like their way of bringing flowers. I don't know. And he said, I will go into my wife in the chamber. But her father would not allow him to go in. He's like, no, bro, stop, right? Here's the deal. Samson left his wife in an angry fit, killed 30 people. It was a whole disaster. So his wife went back to her father, and her father gave her away to Samson's best man. I mean, that's just kind of what happened in the story. And so Samson's dad's like, no way. Samson thought that he could just come back from that fit and everything would be hunky-dory, but Samson's dad was not going to let that happen. Verse 2, her father said, I really thought that you utterly hated her. Wow, that's crazy. So I gave her to your companion. Is not her younger sister more beautiful than she? Please take her instead. Which, number one, creepy, Dad. Totally creepy. But also, if Samson is a person who does everything by sight, right? So look at this girl. Isn't she even prettier, right? Samson's a guy who does everything by sight. And Samson said to him, verse 3, this time I shall be innocent in regard to you Philistines when I do them harm. Samson's not going to have anything of it, because even though Samson's led by his eyes, there ain't nobody going to tell Samson who to marry. Right? That's what's happening here. So Samson, in verse 4, went and caught 300 foxes and took torches, and he turned them tail to tail and put a torch between each pair of tails. And when he had set fire to the torches, he let the foxes go in the standing grain of the Philistines and set fire to the stacked grain in the standing grain, as well as the olive orchards. That's crazy. That's crazy. He basically took two foxes, tied them tail to tail, stuck a torch between the tails, lit the torch, and sent them out and made them run through the grain fields and burnt all of their grain for the year. I mean, that's incredibly crazy, right? This goes beyond everything. So I don't know why he would do that. Verse 6, and the Philistines said, who has done this? And they said, Samson, the son-in-law of the Timnite, because he's taken his wife and given her to his companion. And the Philistines came and burned her with her and her father with fire. They burned the father-in-law and the ex, I guess, wife with fire for what Samson had done. What? I'm telling you, I can't make this stuff up. This is how you know the Bible's true. You could not make this stuff up, right? Samson thinks after he leaves his wife in an angry rage and kills 30 people, he thinks she's going to be able to come back with a goat and just hop right back into bed with her. In the meantime, her dad has given her away to somebody else, but he tries to console Samson by giving him his younger, prettier daughter. Samson will have nothing to do with it, and he burns down all of the fields of the Philistines. And so in retaliations, what do the Philistines do? They kill the dad that Samson's mad with, and he killed the wife that has left him. It's insane. And Samson said to them, if this is what you want to do, I swear I will be avenged on you, and after this I will quit. And he struck them hip and thigh with a great blow, and he went down and stayed in the cleft of the rock of Edom. And the Philistines came up in verse 9 and encamped in Judah, made a raid on Lehi. And when the men of Judah said, why have you come up against us? They said, we have come up to bind Samson, to do to him as he did to us. Then 3,000 men of Judah went down to the cleft of the rock of Edom and said to Samson, do you not know that the Philistines are rulers over us? What then is it that you have done to us? And he said to them, as they did to me, so I have done to them. And they said to him, we've come down to bind you, that we may give you into the hands of the Philistines. And Samson said to them, swear to me that you will not attack me or yourselves. And they said to him, no, we will only bind you and give you into their hands. We will surely not kill you. So they bound him with two new ropes and brought him up from the rock. When he came to Lehi, the Philistines came shouting to meet him. The Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him, and the ropes that were on his arms became as flax that had caught fire, and his bonds melted off of his hands. And he found a fresh jawbone of a donkey, and put out his hand and took it, and with it he struck 1,000 men. Like, with the jawbone of a donkey, Samson killed 1,000 people. This is insane, right? And Samson said, with the jawbone of a donkey, heaps upon heaps. With the jawbone of a donkey have I struck down 1,000 men. As soon as he finished speaking, he threw away the jawbone out of his hand, and that place was called Ramath Lehi. And he was very thirsty, and he called upon the Lord, and he said, you've granted this great salvation by the hand of your servant, and shall I now die of thirst and fall into the hands of the uncircumcised? And God split open the hollow place that is at Lehi, and water came out from it. And when he drank, his spirit returned, and he revived. Therefore the name of it was called En Hakkore. It is at Lehi to this day. And he judged Israel in the day of the Philistines 20 years. 20 years. Guys, this is a crazy story. Part of it, I want you to realize at the beginning, whenever he burns all the fields and everything, like, that's in retaliation. That's not at all in God's desire. Really, what we see in Samson is we see a complete and utter mess of a man. You see in Samson exactly how not to live your life. Don't live your life for your eyes. Don't follow your own emotions. Don't be a person who is jealous and leaning on your own strength, right? God, or he even attempts to manipulate God. Look at what I did for you, and you're going to make me fall in this uncircumcised land. Like, we see all of these things not to be in Samson. Yes, the Spirit of the Lord rushes upon him. Yes, 1,000 of the Philistines fall at his hand, and that is within God's will. But God is merely allowing a person who is living outside of his will to accomplish the bigger picture of his will for him. That's what's happening in this instance. Samson is not a good and godly man. He is not a man who should be idolized in any way at this point in his life. At this point in his life, he is a total disaster, and someone from whom you should keep your children far, far, far away. All right. That's it for today. If you enjoy these Bible studies, if you'd give us a thumbs up, I'd appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them in the comment sections. Of course, I would love it if you'd subscribe to this channel, and you can click that bell icon to receive notifications when we go live. And last but not least, if you think these Bible studies would be helpful to any person that you know, if you would just share these studies with them, I would so greatly appreciate it. That's it for today. I will see you perhaps tomorrow. I may be traveling in the morning. I'm not certain yet. But if you get that notification that we're live,